We have major breaking news out of the state of Virginia, and now it is urgent. We are now in crunch time. On April 13th, 18 different gun control bills will go from being gun control bills to being gun control laws. This is a disaster from the Second Amendment perspective on a scale we haven't ever seen in one single legislative session. This has never happened before. And so I know this is going to be a long video, right? I know a lot of people aren't going to finish it. I know that for a fact. But I need you to understand something. If you understand one thing, I need you to understand this. The reason Abigail Spanberger has put so many bills, has crammed so many bills, a historic number of gun control bills in one session is for exactly that reason. It is because I know it and you know it. Most people are not going to be able to pay attention to the 18 bills. Sure, some people are going to know about the assault weapons ban. Other people are going to know about the carry bans. That's all sexy. I get that. But most people aren't going to know about, the mandatory buyback programs. Most people aren't going to know about the technicalities of the ghost gun regulation. And all of it matters. Every single one of these bills is a disaster, and they all matter. And unfortunately, there is really no other way to cover it than to just get in and cover all 18. So here we go. Before I do that though, please do consider subscribing. It makes such a difference to the success and performance of these sorts of incredibly important videos. So if you care about the Second Amendment, please do subscribe. It really, really matters. I know it doesn't seem like it, but it really, really does. Okay, let's get into it. By the way, if you want to follow along or share this website, it's stopspanberger.com. Pretty self-explanatory name. I put this up. It has all the information. Obviously, it's completely free. Do whatever you want with it. But yeah, that's the website, stopspanberger.com. All right, let's get into it. This is the big one. This is one everyone knows about. HB 749, the assault weapons and magazine ban. And again, remember, the details are important here. This is going to be a detailed video. Like it says here, I wrote it. This bill is the crown jewel of Spanberger's war on the Second Amendment. And that's what this is. This is a war on the Second Amendment. This bill bans the sale, transfer, manufacture, and importation of the most popular firearms in America. These are weapons described as assault firearms, and they are not just rifles. Most people think they're banning like an AR-15. This is not an AR-15 ban exclusively. It does ban an AR-15, but it also bans a bunch of pistols, most shotguns, and a ton of rifles. This is a disaster. And this is not the worst one, in my opinion. This is like probably the third or fourth worst bill here. Yeah, if you are not that up on Virginia's Second Amendment law, you're about to see what I'm talking about. It is absurd what comes up later, but this is a big deal too. Okay, the definition, here's the key point of this. The way that this is so damaging is because of the definition of assault firearms. Like, if it banned AR-15s, that would be a huge loss. That'd be illegal. That'd be terrible. But this is way worse. Okay, so first of all, it bans all standard capacity magazines holding more than 15 rounds. That already is insane. There are plenty of reasonable, lawful uses for magazines over 15 rounds. And the way they determine what guns are banned is these 6 categories. So, category 1, and like I said, we're getting into detail here, is any semi-auto, centerfire rifle, or pistols with a fixed magazine exceeding 15 rounds. No additional features required. If your gun falls in that category, it is illegal. Full stop. All right, category 2, semi-automatic centerfire rifles, which have one of these qualifying features. Essentially, they need to be semi-automatic, detachable magazine, and have a pistol grip, which is present on like a ton of guns. A threaded barrel, which is standard and doesn't even make any sense to ban because last time I checked, that doesn't exactly increase, the dangerousness of the gun. Absolutely ridiculous. This one's crazy. Foldable telescoping or collapsible stock. So this includes even stocks that, can just shift a bit further for comfort. Again, does that increase the lethality? No. Does that suddenly, turn your semi-automatic like AR-15 into an A-10 Warthog? No, of course not. And they know that too. Second hand grip or protruding grip below the action. And of course, grenade or flare launcher. That one probably doesn't affect anyone, so who cares about that one? Again, this bans an enormous amount of guns. But even this bill gets crazier. All right, semi-automatic center-fired pistols. So for pistols, the standard's a bit different. You don't just need detachable magazine and one feature. You need a detachable magazine and 2 features. By the way, if you think I'm speaking quickly, that's because I am. I'm trying to keep as many people as possible to learn about this before people get bored and click off. So I'm going to try and speak quickly. Okay, so here are the features. You need 2 of these to make it illegal. A second pistol grip, which is kind of self-explanatory because that does make it in their heads assaulty. Magazine attaching outside the pistol grip, which is, again, such a stupid one. That one's so stupid. Here's even stupider. A barrel shroud, right? Heat protection, a barrel shroud. Maybe That I could see a world where that was legally mandated, but no, instead that is now combined with one of these other features, illegal. Again, threaded barrel. They hate threaded barrels. I understand from their perspective the reason. It's because obviously threaded barrels can accept suppressor, but again, suppressors aren't even illegal. And what, you want me to not have hearing protection? And so the fact that my gun has the ability to accept hearing protection makes you want to ban it. Again, so stupid. Buffer tube or stabilizing brace. Obviously, they hate stabilizing braces. And then there's also the catch-all of any characteristic of like kind, which is like a barrel shroud that doesn't technically count as a barrel shroud. They can just ban that. And again, this isn't really defined. So what that means is completely up to them. And probably the way we'll find out is when someone does something that should be legal and they try to put them in jail for it. All right. Category 4, semi-auto shotgun. This actually captures a lot more shotguns than most people think. So for any of these, they need only one feature. And you'll see in a second why it captures so many. Folding, telescoping, or collapsible stock. Again, they are obsessed with this feature. It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, they absolutely hate telescoping stocks in the state of Virginia. Thumbhole stock, that one makes sense from like a visual perspective. Detachable magazine capability. This is an important thing. If your shotgun has a detachable magazine, it will be illegal under this bill. It will be illegal to sell and transport under this bill. Fixed magazine exceeding 15 rounds, again, and another catch-all, which is not defined. So is your gun, can your gun get through under a loophole? Who knows? I don't know. The bill doesn't say. So it's anyone's guess what that is. Category 5, revolving cylinder shotgun. Again, absolutely ridiculous. The revolving cylinder design itself triggers the classification. If it's a shotgun, if it's a shotgun and the action is revolving cylinder, it's also an assault firearm under this. Nothing else is required. And then sort of modified firearms, again, which is a catch-all for any firearm modified to meet one of those other categories after the fact. Does your gun qualify? I don't know. Who knows? Doesn't say. So as you can see, a lot of these guns are going to be illegal. You can read through the whole list yourself. But kind of what we'll get through here is what the grandfather clause. And that's what makes this one not as insane as some of the other ones you're going to see. Some of the other ones do not have grandfather clauses, and that's where things get ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, the other ones. But basically, here, you can't sell to any Virginia resident. You can't transfer to non-family within Virginia, so you can transfer to your own family. You can't import additional assault firearms, quote unquote, into Virginia, and you can't manufacture new assault firearms. But you can keep it. It's completely legal to keep it, transfer it to an FFL, sell it to a buyer outside Virginia, pass to someone, God forbid, through inheritance, or use at shooting ranges or on your property. That's all going to remain legal. And that's why this bill isn't as bad. Again, is it terrible? 100%. Is it going to put FFLs out of business? 100%. Does it spit in the face of the Supreme Court and break the Second Amendment? 100%. But it is not the worst one for these reasons. Okay. For under 21, the grandfather clause does not apply. If you are under 21 and have one of these, you face the full penalty of the law. So really, really dangerous stuff. And here are the penalties. You can be in jail for up to 12 months. You can have a $2,500 fine, and you're banned from owning all firearms and protecting yourself for 3 years. So really serious stuff. Again, you really don't want to mess with this. Will this get worked out in the courts? In my opinion, this one actually will, and relatively quickly. But again, at least until that happens, this is serious, really serious stuff. And now we get into the insanity. This law is absolutely, and I kid you not, this is one of the craziest things I've ever read. SB 727. This is probably the second craziest of all of them. Just a ridiculous, illegal, unconscionably terrible bill. So this is a semi-automatic carry ban on public property. This absolutely destroys Virginia's open carry ban overnight. And there is no grandfather clause. No grandfather clause, and the penalties are severe. Absolutely, unbelievably insane. And here's the craziest part. And this is where it goes from being like, this is ridiculous by the gun control people, to, oh my God, they are trying to get every gun owner in every way they possibly can think of. Even an unloaded cased rifle with a single band cosmetic feature cannot be transported in public. You can have the gun unloaded in the case. You cannot transport it. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Like I said here, and like I wrote here, shall not be infringed means nothing to these people. They spit in the face of the Supreme Court. They spit at the Constitution. They hate you if you're a gun owner, and they want to punish you. And as you'll see, most of these laws are not targeting guns. They're targeting the sort of people, and you know what sort of people they are, that would own them, and that's me or you. So Absolutely crazy stuff. Virginia, like I said here, has been one of the strongest states in the Second Amendment. That history is over, right? This is a new Virginia. Abigail Spanberger is in charge. The Democrats have basically full control, and they are trying to cram as much stuff down your throats as physically possible. Just absolutely ridiculous. Again, this is a one-feature test. So unlike the assault weapons ban, which requires different number of features per category, this bill is a one-feature test. It is a lower barrier than the ban we just talked about. Okay, so here are the definitions for this. Again, if your weapon qualifies with there is no grandfather clause, you cannot transport it unloaded and in a case in public. And that's how you know these people are not serious, right? This gun could have never fired a bullet. You don't even own ammo for it, and you are transporting it unloaded with no magazine in a case, and you will still go to jail. That's how crazy this stuff is. So only one qualifying feature is needed if you have a semi-automatic center fire rifle. Only one of these features is needed, and you basically are screwed. You basically can't bring it anywhere in the state of Virginia. Okay, a fixed magazine holding more than 10 rounds, not 15 rounds, 10 rounds. Again, like I said, it's stricter. Folding, scoping, or collapsible stock. Again, standard on basically everything. Thumbhole stock, a pistol grip, a second hand grip or protruding grip, a grenade launcher. They always throw these sorts of things in there just as to try and make everything seem scarier than it is. And a threaded barrel, again, they hate those things, capable of accepting a suppressor, flash suppressor, muzzle brake, or compensator, which none of these are ridiculous things. None of these should even be illegal, and much less, making a gun that's able to accept them illegal. In practical terms, this covers just an enormous swath of firearms. If you have more than probably 3 firearms, you have 2 of them that are going to be banned under this bill. Absolutely crazy, crazy stuff. All right, and I hope you see, I'm not exaggerating at all. This is the law, and it is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, semi-automatic pistols. Again, this is going to get a lot of people. Fixed magazine holding more than 10 rounds. Detachable magazine with capacity over 20 rounds. And this is an interesting one, because if you have a pistol, which could have a detachable magazine over 20 rounds. Let's say you have a pistol and it came with a 10-round magazine, detachable magazine. That would be legal. But someone in China manufactured one that holds, 21 rounds. Yeah, that's now illegal for you to transport unloaded without that magazine in public. That's how crazy this is. You could not even know that your weapon qualifies, and Joe Schmo in China builds a magazine, and now your weapon retroactively is illegal with no grandfather clause. Absolutely crazy. Honestly, I'm getting kind of heated just going through this all, and I'm going to get more heated as this goes on, but we got to do something. We really got to do something about these people. It's ridiculous. All right, folding or telescoping mechanism, thumbhole stock, second hand grip or protruding grip, threaded barrel capable of accepting a suppressor or similar device. Again, this captures a bunch of self-defense handguns. This is a huge, huge thing. And again, like I said, ability to accept a magazine exceeding 20 rounds. And that pretty much anything with detachable magazine will qualify, because you can think of a way that you could build a detachable magazine with over 20 rounds. If you can think of it, yeah, it qualifies. Just terrible. Really just terrible. Semi-automatic shotgun. So any semi-automatic shotgun with one of these features: folding, telescoping, or collapsible stock. That comes up a lot. Thumbhole stock or pistol grip. Ability to accept a detachable magazine. That's all you need. Fixed magazine exceeding 7 rounds or revolving cylinder. Okay? Again, your guns probably, unfortunately, are covered under this. So, where's public property? The bill defines prohibited locations as any public street, road, alley, or sidewalk, any public right-of-way, any public park, or any other place of whatever nature that is open to the public. Yeah, it's that broad. This is the one, and I think a lot of people haven't realized it. Everyone focuses on SB 749. Nobody focuses on the carry ban. The carry ban is just unbelievable. And like you see, really stiff penalties. 12 months jail time, $2,500 fine, right? Just crazy. It is the most serious type of misdemeanor you can get. This is going to be on your permanent record. This can stop you from getting a job, right? And it is obviously a ridiculous law made by tyrants. Obviously, right? If you're paying attention, that is obviously true. Okay, this is law number 3. Again, thank you so much for sticking with me. They are trying to flood the zone so that you can't possibly pay attention to all of the insane things they are doing. And I didn't actually make a video on this one because it passed at the same time as many other laws, and I didn't actually get around to making a video on this. But yeah, this is the under 21 handgun and firearm purchaser license. So the obvious thing about this is we will send someone who's 18, 19, 20 to go die for this country, to go wield legitimate weapons of war, like literally push the button to send a Tomahawk missile to Iran. We'll trust them to do that. But we can't trust them with a firearm in the homeland? Like, absolutely crazy. An 18-year-old can vote, right? They can vote for the people that put this in. They can sign contracts, serve in the military, and die for their country. But they can't buy a rifle to protect their family, right? It is disgraceful. It is disgusting. Again, this is two bills that they've crammed into one. SB 749 creates a brand new firearm purchaser license, and the other one expands the age-based restrictions. So this is basically a total purchase ban for anyone between the ages of 18 and 20 on all firearms. Again, the Second Amendment says the people, not the people aged 21 or older. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to care about this. I know the under 21 stuff, people don't watch it on YouTube. People don't really care because, honestly, a lot of people don't fall into that category. But you have to understand how ridiculous this is. So, any handgun, any rifle, any shotgun requires a license, like permit to purchase, and you can only get those if you're under 21. So, for direct purchase, no one under 21 can buy a handgun or assault firearm. And here's really the bottom line. And I'm going to skip through this one relatively quickly. But here's really the bottom line. If an under 18 person possesses or transports one of these guns, it's 12 months in jail and a $2,500 fine for them. If an under 21 purchases one of these firearms, which was previously legal, they can have 12 months in jail and a $2,500 fine. So it is just absolutely crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. There is no other way to interpret this other than they are pulling every legal lever possible, everything that could be vaguely, plausibly in line with the Second Amendment, even though you and I know they're not, to try and restrict the Second Amendment rights of as many people as they possibly can. All right. This next one is really interesting. And I made a video about this the other day. Didn't do very well because I think it's, honestly, kind of boring. But this is one of the most insidious weapons they have. I didn't really put this as one of the worst gun control laws they implemented because some of them are so egregious. But this is a classic move by the anti-gunners. Essentially what they're trying to do is stop all gun manufacturers and FFLs from operating in the state of Virginia by basically letting people sue them into oblivion. And as you'll see in a second, they have expanded this so much that basically anyone at any time can sue any gun manufacturer into oblivion almost instantly. Just ridiculous. So this law, like I said, is specifically engineered to punch through PLACA. So what PLACA does is it says something very reasonable, that if I make a gun, a functional gun that works and has no problems, it's not a warranty problem. If I make a gun that works and is a good firearm, and then I sell it to a criminal who I have no idea that they're a criminal, I am responsible for the bad things that person does with the firearm, right? I am responsible for that. And that's what PLACA does. It shields people saying, no, of course, if I sell a baseball bat, if I'm Dick's Sporting Goods and I sell a baseball bat, and then someone takes it home and hits someone over the head with it, I'm not responsible. Obviously not. The criminal is responsible. And left-wingers, as you've probably figured out by now, will do anything but make the criminals themselves actually responsible for the crime. And so this basically is custom engineered to get around the federal protections that gun manufacturers have. The reasonable, completely common sense federal protections that these gun manufacturers have. So who's covered, right? Who does this affect? I think this is why this bill is not that widely covered, and you really won't see that much media on it because a lot of us don't feel bad for Smith & Wesson or don't feel bad for our local FFL or gun shop. But honestly, those are the people that, at least for me, I don't build my own guns, enable us to keep and bear arms, right? I wasn't born with a gun. I had to go and buy one. So if you can limit FFLs in the state of Virginia to almost zero, you basically have a gun-free Virginia, which is their entire point. Except, of course, people that import them or, illegally sneak them over the border and do crimes with them. But no, law-abiding people are heavily restricted from this. So this regulates any person or entity engaged in the sale, manufacture, distribution, importation, or marketing. So I'm kind of covered under that, of firearm-related products. This is extremely broad. It covers gun manufacturers, distributors, importers, big box retailers, local FFLs, your mom and pop shops, and online marketers. It is not limited to FFLs. That's a big thing people don't realize. Anyone engaged in the marketing of covered products could qualify. Really, really big deal. So basically the way this works is every firearm industry member shall establish and implement reasonable controls. It's reasonable. This is a reasonable bill. Reasonable controls. I don't think so. But the bill does not define what specific procedures satisfy this requirement. There are no safe harbors, right? No compliance checklist and no regulatory guidance. Whether your controls are reasonable is left to courts to decide after the fact. And here are the required areas. You have to prevent sales to straw purchasers, traffickers, prohibited person, or anyone at substantial risk of self-harm or unlawfully harming another. How do I know? What, you want me to do like racial profiling? Like, how do I know? What are you suggesting here, right? Someone walks in the gun store, I say, no, unfortunately, you're a 22-year-old black male and I can't sell guns to you. Is that seriously what you're suggesting? Because when the transgender gun ban happened, I was vocally opposed to that because, of course, right? I don't believe that we should restrict someone's rights on the basis of what they look like, on the basis of what, membership class they belong to. But I guess Virginia does. So they have to also prevent the loss or theft of firearm products from the business. So if someone breaks into my business, steals my stuff, I get sued for it. I'm the one who has to pay the penalty. Ensure full compliance with all state and federal laws. That one's reasonable. Prevent auto-sear installation on products. That's a Glock switch. So it is my job, if I sell a Glock, to prevent you from illegally modifying it. Now, leave aside whether or not auto-sear should be illegal. They shouldn't be. But leave all that aside. Why is that my job? I'm the gun store. I'm the guy who sells the guns, right? What are we talking about here? It's my job to stop you doing something illegal with the product you purchased from me? What, are we going to hold Dick's Sporting Goods to that? Are we going to hold Toyota to that? Like, it's Toyota's job to prevent you from speeding, right? And if you speed, we're going to put Toyota in trouble. No, of course not. Should the car dealership salesman be in jail for someone driving into a crowd of people? Of course not. He sold a product that legally functioned as advertised, right? If you want to go after like unfunctional gun companies, go for it. I don't care. But if you're selling a legal functional product and you want someone to face severe penalties for this, what are we talking about? And also they have to not break the Virginia Protection Act, which is no problem at all. That makes sense. All right, so who can sue under this, right? It's probably like they set up a board or something and they find the most egregious offenders and they sue. No. The Attorney General can sue. Local prosecutors can sue. And here's the big one. Any private citizen can sue. So if I'm involved, like someone comes and shoots me, let's say, or I'm involved in a carjacking where a gun's involved, I can then go sue the FFL that sold the person that gun. Under this bill, I can do that. How does that make any sense? How is that a workable business model? It's not. The idea behind this is to get essentially gun companies out of business, right? You might not like to hear it. That's the idea behind this. Again, totally draconian, totally illegal, totally ridiculous. But that's just par for the course in Virginia. And essentially here's really the point. This is a PLCA workaround. Federal law explicitly does not allow this. Like, it's not even like an argument. PLCA literally was created to stop this from happening. And this law is really is a really roundabout way of doing it. And that's why they have to make the responsible conduct stuff so vague. And a lot of honest mom and pop businesses are going to be put out because of this. That's just the reality. There's no safe harbor. There's no, plaintiff-friendly venues. It's just brutal. One lawsuit can just shut you down as an FFL. Just terrible. And this is one, I get it. I'm shilling for big business, right? I'm shilling for Glock. But the reality is this is a massive problem. And I don't understand how more people don't see this. I know this is not a sexy one, but this is a huge deal. Again, the reason there are so many gun control laws at the same time, I have no idea how long this video is going to be, but the reason there are so many at one time is because Abigail Spanberger essentially doesn't expect you to watch this video, right? Essentially, she doesn't expect someone to go through and cover all 18. And honestly, most people haven't because it's so much. But that's why I guess we're doing it today. And that's why it's so important to understand these things. Because the next one, this is kind of a good segue. The next one is unbelievable. In my opinion, this is the worst one. It is crazy. If you fall afoul of this bill, they will put you in jail for 2 to 10 years for simply possessing a firearm which you legally purchased, no grandfather clause. That's how insane this is. I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating. I do not understand how this one isn't everywhere and how everyone isn't screaming from the rooftops about this one because it is illegal on so many levels. It is insane on so many levels. But yeah, that's the situation. If you possess a firearm or a number of firearms that are fall under this category, that you legally purchased, complied with the laws, you're not a prohibited person, you're a completely legal, law-abiding individual, for simple possession, they will put you in jail for 2 to 10 years, 2-year minimum sentence for the second offense. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. And this one is not even arguable. This is a clear infringement on the Second Amendment. There's no argument here. There's no way to debate this. Clearly, this infringes the Second Amendment. I know I'm getting heated. You will be too after I talk about this. Okay. Like I wrote here, Americans have been building their own firearms since before this country existed. It's how the revolution was fought. You think those guns were made by, in a big factory? There weren't big factories. They obviously weren't. They were made by, your local gunsmith, right, at the time. This would literally put the founding fathers in jail, give them felonies and put them in jail for up to 10 years. So SB 323 and HB 40, it was originally HB 40, so that's what I call it. HB 40 criminalizes that tradition. Basically, it's kind of two parts of the bill. It expands a plastic firearm ban with a new ghost gun unserialized firearm bans, essentially to target, 3D printed guns. But it goes a lot further than that, as you're about to see. Here's the important point. There is no grandfather clause if you already own an unserialized firearm that you legally built, inherited, or, purchased as a part kit from a store. The government demands you register it, and you can't really do that for reasons we're going to talk about in a second. Exile it, like get rid of it, surrender it, or destroy it. If you do not do that, and intent is not necessary, if you do not do that or don't know about this bill, you will become a felon for possessing it. No other crime required. You will become a felon. I know that sounds crazy, and it is. Like I said, there is no grandfather clause. Again, no grandfather clause. I cannot think of a situation where no grandfather clause is reasonable. Seriously, I can't think of one. I'm not just talking about firearms, but I mean in any capacity. You do a legal, lawful activity, right? You purchase, manufacture, whatever, your own firearm. Legal. You're completely in the bounds of the law. Now, the Virginia Senate, the Virginia House, Abigail Spanberger come along, and you're now a felon. You didn't do anything else. You didn't even have to touch the gun. Could have just sat exactly where you laid it, right? And overnight, you become a felon. Just absolutely despicable stuff. Virginia already had a plastic firearms ban. That's a whole separate topic. I don't know why anyone would want a plastic firearm, but it's your right to have one if you want one. This bill broadens the language to cover more scenarios. This is not really the big problem. We'll get to the next one. This essentially bans the following. Any plastic firearm containing less than 3.7 ounces of electromagnetically detectable metal in the barrel, side, cylinder, frame, or receiver that doesn't generate an accurate X-ray image, and any non-detectable firearm. So essentially, it's a gun that could theoretically get through screening. Now, I don't have screening at an airport. How do I know if my gun that I've made can get through screening? Maybe I serialized it. Maybe I bought it in some other legal manner. How do I know that my gun, is under this, right? Maybe your screening machine doesn't pick up my gun. I have no way of knowing. I don't have one of these. So, again, are a lot of people going to fall under this? Probably not. This one, by the way, is a 1 to 10 year prison sentence. It's a class 5 felony. And you can also face a fine. All right, this is the crazy one, the ghost gun ban. So that part's already ridiculous, but this part's even more. I know I'm saying things like insane, ridiculous a lot. I get that in the comments a lot. But what else am I supposed to say? Like, this stuff is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Okay, this is the entirely new section of law, and this is the core ban. It creates 4 distinct criminal prohibitions that together make it nearly impossible to own, buy, sell, build, or transfer any firearm without a serial number. Again, if you try and own one and you were a law-abiding gun owner before the ban, you are now a felon. No grandfather clause. I know I'm repeating that, but it's really, really important. By the way, if you have someone that needs to know this information, feel free to share this website with them, stopspanburger.com. I built it. It's just, it's free and, you can share it however you want or copy it. It's public domain. Do whatever you want with it. All right. An unfinished frame or receiver, a forge and cast print extrusion machine body or similar item designed to or that may be readily completed, assembled, converted to function as a frame or receiver, or marketed and sold in the public to become a functional frame or receiver. The word printing is explicitly included to target 3D printed firearms and similar parts. This is legal. Like, this currently in the state of Virginia is legal, and it won't be. Oh, by the way, important clarification. These will become laws on April 13th, but they have varying effect dates. I should have said that at the beginning. They have varying effect dates. So depending on, we'll get to the staggered rollout in a second, but depending on the bill, they come into effect at different times. So there'll be laws on the books, but they won't be in effect. This one's a more complicated rollout, but some of them have just like direct days that they become in effect. Some of them are a little bit more complicated, like this one. Just thought I'd clarify. Okay, here are the four important points. So manufacture or assemble. So basically CNC milling, 3D printing, which is additive. It requires a valid serial number, and it applies to any of the major components, and obviously you know what a frame or receiver is. So it's illegal to import, purchase, sell, or transfer any of these unless it's deemed a firearm under federal law and has a valid serial number, which most of them, let's be real, don't. So that's 80% lowers unserialized kits and part sales. C is possession, knowingly possess any firearm, frame, or receiver not imprinted with a valid serial number. That's for like home-built guns, inherited firearms with worn serials. Again, maybe you don't even know that the serial number wore off, right? Sorry, you're a felon now. Manufacturing, this is for a home build, 3D printed CNC milling, which is sort of extrusion printing. E is unlicensed manufacturing and sales, and that kind of closes the build and sell loophole, as they call it. Okay, so that's kind of the details of here. So there's a two-phase rollout. Phase 1, January 1st, 2027. You can no longer buy, sell, transfer, or manufacture sort of these guns. And phase 2 is July 1st, 2027, where the possession ban takes effect. That 6-month gap is your compliance window, but it's not like they know where these guns are. It's not like they're going to send you a letter. So how do you know? How do you know? And here's a comment that gets raised a lot, right? Which is like, I'm not going to tell them, and I'll be fine. Here's the problem. Let's say someone sneaks into your house, God forbid, and you shoot them, right? You have to defend your family and you shoot them. Okay, now the police come, they want to know what firearm you used. You give them the firearm, it has a worn-off serial number, and you had no idea. Sorry, you're now a felon. They're taking you away. That's the reality. I'm sorry, that is the reality what we're dealing with here. Again, you have 4 options. You can surrender it to law enforcement, destroy it, remove it from Virginia, or you can serialize it. Here's the problem. It's really hard to do this, actually. It's not that easy. Most FFLs won't do this. And of course, we're already suing the FFLs out of existence. This is like pretty much not possible, especially because you cannot self-serialize. And most of these dealers don't have the machinery to do that because it's done by the manufacturer. Crazy, crazy stuff. Okay, the next 3 are a little bit less important. We'll get to some crazier ones in a second. But these are important to sort of be aware of. 06 is not covered very, very commonly, which is SB 160, because it kind of expands a law that was already in existence. And it's a little bit technical. I'll go through it really quick. So this basically seems kind of reasonable. So I'll start with that. But it dramatically expands just the government's ability to take away your guns at a whim. So SB 160 dramatically expands who can have their Second Amendment rights stripped over a misdemeanor conviction. Again, not a felony conviction, a misdemeanor conviction. And sometimes that's as simple as, you're charging me for a felony I didn't commit, and the prosecutor comes to me and says, okay, listen, you plead down to a misdemeanor, we won't give you any jail time, just do some community service, I sign, whatever. That can now strip you of your Second Amendment rights. So really, really big deal for those people. Again, I know this one's a little bit politically contentious, but yeah, we'll go through it. Gun control groups call it closing the boyfriend loophole, but what it really does is extend Virginia's firearm prohibition to vaguely defined relationship categories based on a subjective 4-factor test. Essentially, this applies the 3-year ban to those who are convicted of assaulting a spouse, ex-spouse, or co-parent. Now it gets a little bit more tricky, and you'll see in a second. So this bill expands who can trigger the loss of your firearm rights under Virginia's domestic assault prohibition, adding 2 new loosely defined categories, which is an intimate partner. So the court's got to decide if you and someone else were an intimate partner who was in a romantic dating sexual relationship with the person, determined by a 4-factor test, which is ridiculous on its own, and a cohabitant, anyone who currently lives or was within the previous 12 months lived with that person. So this could be like me and my roommate, we get into a fight, whatever, I punch him, no big deal, and they plead down to a misdemeanor. So something like that. Again, you're disarmed for 3 years under this, and you don't even need a felony. And the reason this is so big is, number one, because it's so arbitrary, very loosely defined. And number 2, again, it fits with the strategy of Abigail Spanberger in expanding these boundaries as much as possible. This one's a really hard one to talk about because, again, sounds very reasonable on the face of it. But you have to understand there are a lot of people caught up in this that didn't do really, in many cases, crime at all or serious crime. The point of this, again, to dwindle the number of law-abiding gun owners in Virginia as much as possible. The next one is the protective order firearms surrender. This is SB 38. It supercharges the government ability to strip firearms from your home. We'll get to some crazier ones in a second, but these are also important. And again, that's like half the reason why the anti-gunners have taken this strategy. Someone under protective order convicted of misdemeanor domestic violence assault already had to surrender within 24 hours. Now, protective order is kind of an interesting one because, again, there's not like a trial. This bill adds 3 new restrictions designed to make the process as difficult and invasive as possible and basically creates a government paper trail tracking every transferred firearm. So I'll let you read this on your own, but it essentially just overcomplicates and adds a bunch of government intervention in the process of transferring away your firearms in a situation like this. And this kind of goes along with the red flag law expansion. Again, red flag laws are a real problem not because we don't think that people who are dangerous or pose a danger to themselves or others should be able to own firearms. Actually, that's pretty much the group that can't. If you're a danger to yourselves or others and have been adjudicated as such by the court, you shouldn't be able to own firearms. But that's the problem. These are people that haven't been adjudicated by a jury of their peers. They haven't had a fair, full trial, and boom, they just lose their firearm rights. Like that. Boom. Government can come take your stuff. So HB 901 is a massive expansion of Virginia's already unconstitutional red flag law. With substantial risk orders, and it just basically guts what few safeguards exist. Under the current law, only prosecutors and law enforcement could petition to strip someone's firearms. So a prosecutor or law enforcement would have to come and say this person's a danger to themselves or others. Now that's already unconstitutional because you need to, have a trial before you can get rid of my rights, and they had to conduct an independent investigation. This basically just opens it up, expanding petitioners from 2 categories to 18, adding a bunch of vague new risk factors, and eliminating the mandatory investigation requirement. So essentially, someone can make an accusation for you, and the next day, sorry, all your guns are gone. And the list is insane. These are counselors, social care workers. You can read your own list, but like school administrative, intimate partners, romantic, dating, or sexual within 12 months. This is going to be a big one because what's going to happen is someone's going to break up with someone, knows the person really likes guns, and they can just say this guy's a risk to themselves or others. No investigation, definitely no due process. Sorry, all your guns are gone and you cannot own another one. Absolutely, absolutely crazy. A lot of people aren't covering this. It's absolutely crazy. And if you do fall under that category, if someone, let's say, you're dating someone, they break up with you, they make a false accusation to get back at you, it's a class 6 felony, 1 to 5 years in prison. Absolutely crazy. All right. Number 10, I think, is one of the craziest and sneakiest. We'll get to that one in just a second. This one's also interesting, I'll say that much. So the government, this is the mandatory firearm storage laws, and here's where it kind of sounds reasonable to people that don't know about guns, but people that do have guns understand how crazy this is. So the government is now telling you how to store your own property, your own guns, in your home. SB 348 criminalizes having a readily accessible firearm for self-defense in your own residence if a minor or prohibited person is present. Now, prohibited persons is a little bit of a different situation, but a minor is present. I probably want a readily accessible firearms for self-defense if a minor is present. Like if my kids are in the house, I want to be able to defend them. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm the crazy one here, but that seems reasonable to me. Basically, your firearms and ammunition must be locked away in a government-approved container, meaning when someone kicks your home in at 3 a.m., you better hope you can fumble with a lock combination before they reach their family. And the answer is, unfortunately, you probably won't be able to. Again, Youngkin vetoed this a bunch of times because he understood this literally kills people. This is like one of the ones that really gets people killed. And Spanberger is going to sign it without blinking, or at least, and this is an important point to raise too, if she doesn't sign any of these by April 13th, they go into law automatically. She doesn't need to sign them. They'll automatically go into law. So here's who must comply. Any person who possesses a firearm where they know a minor or prohibited person is present. So a minor under age 18 and is subject to anyone under age 18, and a prohibited person is obviously a large swath of people. But this includes people, again, under protective orders. So you're living in a house with a roommate, right? Let's say, and that person comes under a protective order, which doesn't mean you're guilty, doesn't mean you're a bad person, doesn't mean you're have anything to do with a crime. And now suddenly you having your gun in your nightstand is now illegal. Absolutely insane stuff. The compliance part is really complicated too. And again, it's absolutely ridiculous. Right now, it's only a $250 fine, which they understand because a lot of people are going to get caught up in this. But it's a class 4 misdemeanor. They're going to pump that up in a second. This has been a strategy by anti-gunners for a long time. They make something a minor fine. No one freaks out about it. And then boom, it's a higher level misdemeanor. And then boom, it's a felony. And this is going to get a lot of people. This is one of those that's going to get a lot of people. Someone breaks into your house. The police say what happened. I say the person broke in. I had my gun in my nightstand, grabbed it, shot him. Perfectly legal shoot, but unfortunately, not yet. But the police eventually are going to be taking you off to jail for that. Absolutely crazy. Completely against the Second Amendment. Number 10. Number 10 is really, really interesting. This is one of those that no one really has covered. And I think this one is going to catch out probably more people than anyone else. It is insane. It is a 12-month jail sentence. It is crazy. So what most people report about this is that it's a 40 to 100 foot increase. Sorry, it was 40 feet essentially before the radius around a polling place, and now it's 100 feet. Now, that's a 150% increase, but in area terms, that's a 525% increase. And that is about to be really significant when you understand they didn't just include polling places, they included an insane number of things. Remember, this is like a third of a football field. It's like kind of far. And if I work in the office next door of any of these places, well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to jail. And this will get worse than you realize in a second. Okay, polling places is while polls open during counting plus or minus an hour. The first point is, this is already ridiculous because I should have to be, in the polling place to qualify. Like, what if I live near a polling place and I'm just walking my dog, right? Boom, now I step foot on the sidewalk. Boom, now I go to jail. While I'm in my house, I am exempt. But as soon as I step foot on the public sidewalk, I'm not anymore. Absolutely crazy. So am I just like screwed? Because I literally can't get to my car without passing through the sensitive place. Am I just screwed? By the letter of this law, I believe the answer is yes. So crazy stuff. Electoral board meeting places. No time limit specified. And I don't know where these are. How do I know where this is? Right? They could be meeting, again, the floor above me. Right? And now, again, I'm a criminal. General Registrar Principal's Office. This is open year-round, 5 days a week. And yeah, again, I don't know where this is. It could be on the route that I walk my dog. It could be. I have no idea. I have no way of knowing. It's not signposted. Crazy stuff. Additional registration sites. I have no idea what these are. Local results certification sites. I have no idea. State results certification sites. No idea. Central absentee voter precincts. Which is crazy because it's absentee like ballot drop boxes. Yeah, 100 foot around those. Recount sites. Register offices during in-person absentee voting, and ballot drop-off locations. They're literally everywhere during an election. And I could just be driving along, getting my morning coffee, boom, I go to jail. And again, that's the point of all this. This sounds, okay, wow, they increased it 60 feet. Like, big deal, 60 foot. Like, what are we talking about here? No, this is a massive deal. A lot of people are going to get caught out by them. Just absolutely terrible stuff. Like I said, it's a class 1 misdemeanor, 12 months in jail, $2,500 fine. You're probably tired of me saying that by now. But again, we're already halfway through, I know, but that's the point of all this, right? They are trying to flood the zone. They are trying to make it impossible for you to keep track of. And honestly, they've succeeded with a lot of people. So if you're still watching, by the way, I really, really appreciate it. There's some crazier. The craziest one is probably number 16. That's a little teaser for you, but that is the most insane one. All right. Campus and state building firearm ban. This one's really bad. Okay, a one-word change. That's all it took to disarm every student, professor, and visitor at every public university in Virginia. Now, if you recall, during the argument around on this, one of the arguments that the delegate proposing it, I believe his name was Garrett McGuire, proposing it said, was that you can use your body as a shield. Actually, I'll just play that clip right now. Here's the clip. It is disgusting.
But wait, Mr. Speaker. I asked the body to look at line 49, where we exempt cadets in a college ROTC program. Even though that we know that it's not always true that you need a gun to fight back someone with a gun, because those hero cadets didn't. Levu Labrescu, a Holocaust survivor, professor at Virginia Tech, didn't have a gun when he selflessly gave up his body to prevent the Virginia Tech shooter from entering his classroom and saving lives that day. So, Mr. Speaker, I move that we adopt this important conference report.
By the way, just rewatching that now, the most disgusting part about that is that Levu Labrescu, who is the guy who was killed, unfortunately, in the shooting, who heroically used his body as a shield to protect his students and successfully did, he was disarmed once before in the Holocaust, right? Not one of the very first things Hitler did was disarm the populace, disarm the Jews. And he was disarmed by the Nazis, got taken off, survived, came to America, right, in search of a better life, and was killed by this kind of policy. That's the reality, right? People are going to die because of this. Really, really terrible stuff. So this eliminates the blanket campus exemption that previously allowed lawful carry in public college and university buildings. Basically, it's just insane. Richmond's answer to the Virginia Tech shooting, after every campus shooting where Virginia was disarmed by policy, their answer was to guarantee that the next attacker faces zero armed resistance. Every college building, UVA, Virginia Tech, JMU, all the rest of them, is now a soft target by law. So previously you were able to carry with it being a university policy issue, not a legal issue. Now it's just a class 1 misdemeanor. Absolutely insane. 12 months jail, $2,500 fine. The people that live and work in these buildings are screwed. I mean, they're effectively disarmed. And honestly, yeah, they're just sitting ducks, right? We got a couple more till we get to the really major ones. 14, 15, and 16 are really big ones, but 16 is one of the craziest. But this is just a weird one. Mental health hospital weapons ban. Essentially, it just creates a new gun-free zone. I'll get through this quickly, but a gun-free zone for mental health hospitals. But that includes the visitors, which really doesn't make any sense. So let's say my sister, God forbid, was sick, right? And I can't carry into a mental health hospital. I don't know how that makes sense, but they added that as an exemption. And then for 13 is visible handgun and vehicle. This is essentially to create a gun-free zone let's say they created a gun-free zone that forces you to leave your gun in your car. They'll punish you for that. It's a $500 civil penalty. No jail time yet. It's civil, not criminal. But I would expect them to try and ramp that up. Maybe the next legislative session. We'll look forward to that video, huh? But yeah, again, this is just the expansion of basically just trying to make it as difficult as possible. Okay, number 14 is a big deal. Number 14 is one of the biggest deals. It is crazy, 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 crazy. So your Virginia concealed handgun permit was great. Like, it was a great handgun permit to have, and this just makes it worthless. This essentially eliminates all concealed carry reciprocity by default, and it gets even worse than that. Basically, the way it works is one unique person, the Attorney General, gets the sole power to decide which states make the cut. And their thing they have to decide is if it's substantially similar. Now, here's the weird part of that. It could be more open or less open. So, like, pretty much no one else has the exact same number of training hours, the exact same fingerprinting, the exact same, permitting system, permitting process as Virginia. Obviously, every state's a little bit different. So what qualifies as substantially similar? Who knows? Well, the Democrat Attorney General gets to decide. So I wouldn't hold your breath on it being too big. But here's the worst part. Aside from the fact that, of course, one anti-gun politician gets to decide it all, this also closes the out-of-state workaround. So a Virginia resident who has, like, let's say, a non-resident permit from Texas or whatever, or they had a permit in Texas and moved, now are unable to conceal carry in Virginia, except for active duty military and spouses. So this removes that. And you might not know that that was the case. So again, you're going to get caught out. This is a really big deal as well because reciprocity works both ways. Virginia lets you carry in Texas. Texas lets you carry in Virginia. So because of this, your concealed handgun permit from Virginia, right? Your my concealed handgun permit from Virginia basically won't allow you to start carrying in other states. Now, Texas, obviously, and a lot of the states down there are now permitless carry. But the point still remains. This is going to restrict a Virginian resident who actually goes somewhere else heavily in terms of what they can carry. And that's really unfortunate. And that's the point. They want to hurt you for being a Virginia resident, whether or not you're still even in the state. Absolutely crazy. This was tried before in 2015, and they literally reversed it in 8 weeks. It was such a disaster. And now this is kind of preventing that reversal, right? This is codified in the statute. It's not going to be outdone without new legislation and a governor's signature. And that's not going to happen under the current political establishment. No way. 15 is a little bit less important, but essentially it deliberately strikes the NRA and USCCA by name for Virginia's CHP training statute. It's basically a political hit job on those two organizations because obviously it's big for those organizations to be able to have that. The craziest part is they literally targeted the NRA by name. The original bill text, it was amended, literally struck the NRA and USCCA from the statute. So this just changes essentially and restricts the way that you can fulfill your handgun permitting training in the state of Virginia. Okay, 16 is unbelievable. This is the craziest one, in my opinion, long-term. This is the worst one, in my opinion, long-term. Some of the other ones are worse short-term. This is the worst one long-term. The implementation of this is January 1st, 2028, and it is brutal. Like, this one is terrible, 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 terrible. This creates a mandatory buyback framework. So basically, this forces every single law enforcement agency in the state of Virginia, every county police, every city police, every town police, and all sheriff's offices to build, staff, and operate a permanent firearm surrender pipeline by January 1st, 2028. That's what it does. And again, right now they call it voluntary. But why does the government want to do this if they're not planning to use it? right? The point of something like this, and I covered this in a video that I did quite well. The point of this, obviously the point of this is because they're going to expand this, right? The reason you set up infrastructure like this, which is really hard to do and takes years, is because you want to expand it. This is the really dangerous one. And if, the Democrats are allowed to do what they want to do, this is going to be that law that broke the law that broke the camel's back, right? This is going to be the one that we look back on and say, this is really where it all ended. Unfortunately, the reality is every single county police, city police, town police, and sheriff's offices are going to be forced. It is mandatory for them to create a buyback program or give back program. Absolutely crazy. And here's the most interesting thing: your firearms get destroyed. Period. Now there is actually a little bit of an asterisk to this, which we're not going to get into now. But basically, unless there's a certain tag added to them, all firearms are to be rendered inoperable, not resold, not redistributed, not recycled, just melted down and gone forever. So they want to just eliminate guns. And no criminals are going to turn this in. With the exception that if I steal your gun, I will turn it in, because they can't use this as evidence. So if I steal your gun, I turn it in, I get the gift cards, they can't use that as evidence against me, right? So this is just insane. It creates a reason for criminals to steal guns from law-abiding gun owners. Literally, this creates an incentive for criminals to steal guns from law-abiding gun owners and then destroy them by giving them to the state. And they get paid for it. Ridiculous stuff. There is an exemption for antiques, and every surrendered firearm gets run through crime databases. It's ridiculously costly. It's just absolutely terrible. And basically, the only guns it's going to get are stolen guns and people that, parts guns that people want to turn in because they don't work, and law-abiding old people that are just kind of boomer-pilled and want to do it. This is just absolute disaster. Absolutely terrible, draconian, despicable, tyrannical, whatever you want to call it. Absolutely ridiculous. 17 is a little bit of a departure. Basically, 18 is kind of interesting too, but 17 is a little bit of a departure. It makes if you commit a misdemeanor that's classified as a hate crime, again, we're talking about the plea example, where you don't even need to serve a day in jail, you will lose your gun rights forever. Could be 50 years ago, and it could be 50 years ago where you got into a bar fight with someone, you said something you probably shouldn't have, and then pled it down to a misdemeanor, didn't serve a day in jail, it was not a huge deal, but again, not that you should do that, but you'll lose your gun rights forever. It creates the first permanent firearms ban for a misdemeanor offense. Absolutely insane. You get into a bar fight and the prosecutor argues you picked the wrong person for the wrong reason. Lifetime ban. No physical injury required, no felony conviction required, just a misdemeanor assault with alleged bias motive. That's it. Your Second Amendment rights are gone forever. Absolutely ridiculous. You might not be a danger to yourself or others. Probably you'd have gotten a felony if you were. They're basically trying to, like I wrote here. This is the most dangerous precedent in the entire 18 bill package. It proves they will use any excuse to create permanent firearms disabilities, and they will. Just hateful stuff. Just absolutely brutally bad stuff. All right, the last one. We've been here for quite a while. I have no idea how long it's been. But yeah, no. The last one is the Gun Violence Prevention Center. Very interesting piece of legislation. Very, very interesting. Basically, this is such a smart idea on their part. Just terrible stuff, but really smart idea. This creates, by the way, if you're still watching this, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It really does make a difference, not only to me, but to the future of the Second Amendment in the state of Virginia. They're trying to flood the zone, as you could probably see. I've tried to go through it. I haven't even gone through it in the amount of detail I would like to, but it's just not possible. So yeah, this is kind of the final piece of the machine. It's a permanent tax-funded anti-gun propaganda office embedded in state government that no future governor can shut down. That's what's important to understand about this. It is very, very sneaky, very, very clever. You can tell whoever did this really knew what they were doing. So this takes the existing Office of Safer Communities and codifies it in statute with expanded powers, tens of millions in annual funding, and a legislative mandate to produce research that, surprise, will always recommend more gun control. Basically, they create sort of a, you'll see in a second, they create sort of a committee, and they're only appointing anti-gun groups to it. So they're supposed to do research, to find firearm violence intervention strategies and stuff like that. What this is going to do is a state-funded bureau that essentially just thinks of more gun control to ram down your throat. And that is the point of all of this. What this bill package has done, and now that we're at the end, I'm going to give you the overview of what they're doing. These are short-term, hurt gun owner policies, right? Essentially, they're trying to get as many guns off the street as possible. They're trying to make people not used to guns. Here, they're trying to get rid of the gun industry from the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia. Here, they're basically trying to make sure that every gun in the state of Virginia, they know where they are. Here are just a couple extra people that can't have guns anymore. And then they've added just a bunch of random obstacles to harm gun owners further. And then here, they've set up what they want to do eventually, which is a mandatory gun buyback program. And the crowning achievement of all of it is now it is going to be self-propagating. They have funded a anti-gun committee to come up with more gun control legislation. This all makes sense when viewed in context. I hope you've seen why these 18 bills together are so ridiculous. So ridiculous. They have created one of the most complete, most tyrannical, most terrible, but also smartest gun control regimes in history. They've done it faster than everyone else. Abigail Spanberger, whatever you want to say about her, and the people and the Democrats in the Virginia House and Senate are nothing if not efficient. They've done what we could not hope to do in the Second Amendment side. If you want to share this, by the way, this is stopspanberger.com. I grouped the different laws by types. There's a link to my YouTube channel there to watch this video. I really appreciate it. A lot of innocent people are going to get caught up in this, and that's just the reality. It is a real shame. It is a terrible situation. But the reality is a lot of people are going to be harmed one way or another, and it's just a terrible reality of the situation we're in. Anyway, guys, I know that was a long video. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched that whole thing, please do comment and let me know. I would love to hear that because, again, I know it's boring. I know it's tough, but unfortunately, it's just the way it is at the moment. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoy. Stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.